Good afternoon. Is everybody out there? First of all, welcome to Birmingham. My name is Tim Ford. I'm the director of the Young Rep, which is the youth theatre company based at the Birmingham Rep. We're a very large youth theatre company that has groups that meet both at the Rep and across the city. There's 20 groups, approximately 300 young people, and we do come from all over the city, so we try to engage with as many young people as we possibly can. So I'm going to very quickly talk you through our approach to the paper, what we did, and hopefully a bit of practical work so you can all enjoy that too. First of all, we did the Excellence Youth Theatre Indicator Set 3, and we also did Section 3, which is about diversity, equality, and about how young people feel when they come to your youth theatre and how you welcome young people, which I think is following on from a bit what Juliet was saying this morning. So I'm not going to propose to answer any questions, I'm just literally going to open up the debate, because for us it opened a huge door which was fascinating, and we're still kind of discovering stuff from both our staff and young people. So, the first thing I did was I took a very low-tech approach, so I'm going to show you my low-tech approach, first of all. Okay, so what I decided to do was, because it was a series of questions, it was how can we use the brochure and the excellence paper and the inclusion paper to actively engage our youth theatre staff team and our youth theatre members. So I decided to take an artistic approach and do some pretty drawings, and hopefully out of those pretty drawings would come some really useful hard evidence, because it's all very well for us doing practical exercises, but how do you, from my point of view, how do you evaluate that, how do you record that, and how do you kind of have stuff that you're able to quantify and go back and think about and talk about, other than videoing your sessions, I suppose. So what I'm going to do is bring up, I've got my staff team, and I've got some youth theatre members here, and I'm going to need about 10 volunteers. So if I could have 10 very quick volunteers to come and sit in two groups on the floor, I'd really appreciate that, please. Thank you. Have we got some volunteers, please? Please. Thank you. So, my starting point on the very first one, which was about excellent youth theatre projects, really came out of a quote at the start of the paper, which talks about youth theatre members saying that a youth theatre is like a flower, and every member is like a petal on that flower. And I kind of thought that was a really lovely way of looking at our youth theatre and our membership. So, I started off by drawing a flower. There it is. So if you could get into two teams, and basically what we did was we started off by drawing the flower, and I gave each youth theatre member some post-it notes and some pens, which they're going to do now. And I want you guys in a second to kind of do this, talk through this with the person sat next to you, and just think about what projects you've done recently, or what has been excellent about those projects. So we literally started off from that point of view, and we gave our youth theatre members and our staff team the opportunity to talk about what they thought was successful, what made it successful, what they thought was excellent about that. And very gently, we teased the questions out within the paper. So if you'd like to do that very, very quickly, the two teams of people either side of us are going to do exactly the same. And we marked down on each of the post-it notes the things they thought had worked well, and we literally put it on there to make a flower. So if you guys would like to do that and make us a pretty flower, that would be really good. And if you want to quickly talk about, with the person sat next to you, one thing or two things that made your project excellent. And what you'll probably find is that you all have different opinions of what is excellent and what makes up excellent and different. And that was fascinating for us as a staff team and our young people. They really discovered very different things about what they thought had been excellent about the project. The next thing to do, just while you're talking about it, is then things that didn't work so well, or things that need to be worked on. And all I did literally was drew a line for the earth and put it as projects that either as fallen leaves or fallen petals, things that didn't work for us so well, and things that we needed to work on, so like drawing little roots. And so it was literally a very simple process, but it's something we were able to look at and talk about after. Okay, the very next thing we did then was we then asked both the staff team and young people to then pick out 5 kind of top tips, which would, kind of hypothetically, give them green fingers. If they were gardeners, what top tips would help you to have green fingers? And it kind of looks a bit like this. As you can see, it's very artistic. And then we've got them to put, again, post-it note next to each of the fingers. And out of that, it's quite an interesting starting point for what young people and what staff team deem to be important about making their project excellent. So that was my first approach to looking at excellent projects and discussing that. And it did open quite a lot of debate amongst our staff team and our young people. So the next process was our inclusion. And basically what we did then was following the same drawing pattern, is I drew a bus. And I asked the staff team and young people to, again, using post-it notes, to make a list on the post-it notes of every young person, every type of young person that they thought was at our youth theatre. So effectively, who was on our youth theatre bus? And it kind of looks a bit like this, and they're going to do that now very, very quickly. And what we're trying to do is trying to look at, and we talked about, does the bus then reflect the cultural makeup of our city and of the kind of I suppose what I'm trying to say is when I came to Birmingham, how different the youth theatre is now, because it was very much a white middle-class youth theatre. So it was about how have we as an organisation engaged the cultural makeup of our city. We then looked at the social groups within our youth theatre and the social makeup of that, and then we did a mapping exercise finding out kind of where people had come from. So geographically, had we got a spread that went right around the city? So that was the first little exercise that we did. So very, very quickly now, with your partner, have a quick chat about what kinds of groups of people are currently in your youth theatre, and the exact question which you were saying earlier about who is missing from your youth theatre. And the next thing that we did was, having got the youth theatre bus going, I then drew the bus stop. And the idea being at the bus stop was looking at who's at the bus stop, who's missed the bus, or who's waiting at the bus stop to join us. So we looked at our waiting lists, and we looked at, from certainly looking at the membership of on the bus, who we thought was missing, and then that opened a debate as to why we thought these people were missing from our youth theatre. Okay, and finally the next little thing we talked about, which I think this is the thing that for me opened up the most interesting debate, and I would really encourage you all to kind of go for this next little process. And it's called the Youth Theatre House. So, do a pretty little house, and this was totally, for me, fascinating, and was far more powerful than I ever imagined it being. I started off thinking about the idea of, for me, the youth theatre is like a second home to young people. And I so often hear young people go, it's like my second home, I'm always here, I love it when I come here. And I started thinking about, what's it like when I go and visit people's houses? How am I made to feel at different people's houses? And I'm sure you all kind of will recognise these different patterns when you go to different people's houses. So there are some people's houses you go to and you only get as far as the doorstep. And I think that's an important kind of start. So how do you welcome your youth theatre members and your staff? How do they get onto that doormat? How do they get the door open? So there's a whole debate there about how do you join our youth theatre? How do you get involved in our youth theatre? The next one, which is, I think it's everybody, I suppose, has got in their house the posh room, the room for best. The room where, if you're going to have guests, it's the room where you kind of are going to take people in. But it's going to be quite formal, quite tidy, and you can guarantee that there won't be any bits of personal kind of mess hanging around. And I kind of looked at that and go, in a youth theatre context, what would that look like? What would a formal kind of youth theatre look like? Or do young people feel like that they're in our front room, our best room? And is that a good place for them to be? Or do we want them to be in a different kind of room? So I think there's an interesting discussion to be had there with young people and with staff about that front room to start off with. The next room you have is then, I suppose, your messy lounge kind of space, or your chill out room out the back. And it's probably where the downstairs toilet is as well. And it's kind of, do you allow your youth theatre members to kind of go into that second room, that second space? And is that the right room for them to be in? Do you want them to feel like they're welcome enough that they can come in, take their shoes off, put their feet up and relax and engage and feel at home? Because certainly my experience of working at REP is it can be a very kind of scary, alienating experience in such a big organisation as that. So what can we do as an organisation to make our young people feel like it's a little bit like their kind of back room, I suppose? So how do we make them feel? And how do I encourage my staff team and the staff that work at the REP to make young people not feel like they are only in the best posh front room, but in this other room here? So that was the next interesting discussion we had. And then we led that up to the upstairs area. How many people do you allow upstairs to use the upstairs toilet? And what kind of trust do you have to have? And do they have to have a relationship with you to be able to go upstairs and leave your doors closed or your doors open? It's that whole, how do you engage with your young people and your staff team and make them feel like they're allowed to go upstairs? Or maybe they're not allowed to go upstairs, or maybe you don't want them to go upstairs, or maybe they don't want to go upstairs. And it was a fascinating discussion, because one of the things we did was we asked people, where do you think you should be? Where would you like to be? And what are you doing at the moment to kind of help get you into the room you want to get to? Or what are we doing as a youth theatre to help you get into the room that you want to go to? And it opened up lots of doors for us. I think the biggest one, it surprised a lot of our youth theatre members that actually sometimes to get up to this room, it kind of commands a respect and a building of relationship. You can't just turn up to a youth theatre and be expected to jump straight up into the upstairs toilet area, if you know what I mean. It changed the outlook of quite a lot of our youth theatre members going, I can see, I've got to work hard at this youth theatre, I've got to engage more in this youth theatre. I've not got to just turn up once a week for my youth theatre session. I need to get more out of that as a kind of, in order for me to get up to that stairs area there. And then finally, which is the area that I don't know how many people you take up into your loft area. Maybe you do take everyone to your loft area, but and what kind of relationship do you have to have with people in order to say, yeah, it's up in the loft, go and help yourself. And what would we find in that loft area? Is that all the kind of the inner workings of our youth theatre, the financial understanding of our youth theatre, the artistic kind of planning of our youth theatre, the programming of our youth theatre? Where does all those kind of things happen? And are we comfortable as an organisation to let young people get that far up? Or do we feel happy that they're just upstairs or happy in the front room or outside on the doormat? So it's kind of a really interesting kind of process. And I'd like you to now talk just for a couple of minutes as these guys over here are going to quickly put where they think their youth theatre members are, where they think their youth theatre members would like to be, and where you think, and potentially what can you do to take your youth theatre members out of your posh room and into the warm, welcoming front room where they can have a cup of tea and a biscuit and put their feet up and watch the X Factor. So have a quick chat about that. So I hope that was a kind of a useful starting point for you to go away and think about and hopefully implement with your youth theatre, because it certainly has helped us as a youth theatre to further deepen the experience of our young people, because I think deep down that's why we're all here, because we care about our youth theatre and we care about our young people. And I think for me, it's about ownership of the youth theatre and ownership for young people to have that sense of ownership and belonging. And that's why for us the house worked really, really well. So just to sum up, we approached the paper in a very practical, creative, fun way, and we had a fantastic time. So I'm just really going to echo all the things that have been said today about please don't put it on the shelf. Please don't put it on the shelf. Look at it, go away, use it, really use it. It's a tool that is going to make a huge difference to you as artists and practitioners, and to your young people as artists and practitioners as well. So Thank you very, very much for your time. I really hope you have as much fun with the paper as we have, and keep the movement going. That's what we say.